Going back to the beginning existence of Spencer Androli and the WJF competitions, which was WJF 9, I was curious what happened leading up to that, and what motivated your decision to go.
So I started juggling when I was 8. My cousin taught me like the basics. He taught me how to juggle, and then I was watching a ton of YouTube videos, looking up juggling on YouTube, everything, and I found the WJF, and geez, like I I memorized like the words of like WJF.3 trailer.
They've come from all over the world.
It was super like exciting. Like I'm like juggling like that was incredible. Like I really wanted to make it to the WJF, and I was in Peru at the time. Like we lived in Peru, and then we moved here to Tyler, Texas. We made it to WJF 9, and it was just dream come true.
Once you got there, what was your, because that was a long one, right? That was we did a whole week. What was your experience like there?
I actually remember meeting you the first time in the elevator. I don't know if you remember, like, and that you were the first juggler I saw
really?
at the convention when we got there. So it was,
I'm always the first one there. That you have, if you show up early, your best chances of seeing another juggler is me.
Yeah, and we were trying to make it to our hotel room, and we were trying to spot someone we might have recognized from YouTube or and then we get into the elevator. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Jason Garfield. So no, yeah, I remember that moment for sure. I also remember juggling so much the first day that my hands were all dried up from the Vegas dry. So I had like cuts in my hands after the first day. It was a good time. Yeah,
the elevators were often places that I ran into people, jugglers, for the first time at the convention. And that's one thing those events will do, is make you juggle way longer than you would on your own for multiple days. I remember seeing, I mean, some of the parents would come up to me and try to ask me to convince their kids to take a break because their hands would just be cut up and bloody mess. Like, I can't get them to stop juggling. I think it was Freddie Sheed. His mom came up to me at WJ4 and said, can you convince Freddie to stop juggling for a little while? He's destroying his hands.
I remember Rob Kreitz gave me like this moisturizer cream for like heavy working hands, and he said Freddie Sheed like literally was bleeding, and he gave him that cream, and it worked. It helped.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been to several WJFs since then. Which one was your favorite?
I gotta say WJF 10, for the fact that all the big jugglers were there. Like I obviously didn't compete in the advanced. I won juniors that year, but like Jonah, Doug, Thomas, Toby, a huge amount of jugglers. And that was like the best competition. Lauga was there too. And they had like the prelims, so you could watch like the prelims for like hours. They were exhausted, but it was entertaining. Honestly, the prelims, like if they were filmed, it would have been very entertaining, because I think Doug got like back crosses back into the pattern. And like for the prelims, and he qualified for the 7-ball freestyle.
Well, then what are your goals with juggling? What are you trying to accomplish?
I'm currently studying for a business degree in college. It's more of an interest, and plus I can apply it to juggling, and it's very broad.
Yeah, so you apply to anything in your life, you're going to need some sort of, everyone should take a business course. Yeah,
because I'm not fully sure what I want to do, but I do want to do something with juggling in the future. And really, like, the Olympic idea excites me a lot, because if something like that happens, like I watched the previous one with Jack, and you said like the dream for the WJF was to like have enough prize money for the competitor to live off of it, train the rest of the year, and compete again. And I'm like, yeah, that would be would be amazing. Yeah, that would be super ideal.
Yeah, but, I announced that hope, that dream at the WJF 2 awards banquet, video banquet, and it hasn't gotten up that high. That, I mean, if it gets more popular, it'd be a combination. Yeah, prize money could do it, but or sponsorships, or a combination of those two. Like the idea that individual jugglers could get sponsored by companies because they're popular, and they're at if they're in the Olympics, there's a higher chance of that kind of financial support from sponsors and from the prize money. and just from grants in general, especially now that the WJF will be a nonprofit. It seems like we're more likely to get donations that are tax deductible and then be able to distribute that, wherever we feel we need to. So yeah. So your goals then mainly are just in improving your skill, not so much performance related or career related for right now.
I mean, I have like multiple like ideas of where I could go. In a way, I've considered circus school for a second, because I have ideas on performances I would like to do. If I found a gig in a circus or something that like I would perform consistently, that would be amazing, because really juggling is what I love to do.
Well, yeah, and since you've put so much time into it, I mean, the way I thought about it is I put way more time into my juggling than I would have put into college, way more hours, and I'm better at juggling than I'm going to get at anything in college. So I better figure out a way to get a return on my investment and turn it into some sort of a career. So, the skills that you have, obviously I could have stopped way before I got as good as I got. So clearly you could have stopped way before, but I mean, that was just something we did for ourselves. And it also separates yourself, even if it's just for yourself, so that that, you're actually showing the audience something they're probably not going to see any other juggler do in the same venue. Definitely try to figure out a way to incorporate that into your career, because you have those abilities, and you can keep developing those as we work our way to get into the Olympics. So you have multiple avenues available for you whenever they open up.
And I've also been thinking, like, I do currently coach a couple people with juggling, like online through Zoom.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, and it's like, if maybe like juggling doesn't make it to the Olympics, like in a couple of years, or like after I like stop juggling as much as I do, I guess, like I can always coach someone who is in the Olympics. Like that would even be a dream come true for me.
The path to the Olympics has multiple benefits regardless of if or when we get there. I mean, even if it never happens, just the attempt to get there is going to be good for juggling overall. It's going to get way more people interested in it. And also those skill level certifications are going to give people a very clear path to going from beginner to, the highest level and then beyond what's being done right now. And all the steps that we're taking and the media attention that we're going to get for just trying to meet all the criteria, and also all of the outreach with the different affiliates in different countries. So we're going to be creating WJF affiliate organizations. So there's going to be sport juggling organizations that represent minimum of 40 different countries. And within those countries, they all can then nominate city level affiliates as well. And then with all that comes the WJF school program. So we start working our way into schools. That's another way that we can create jobs for jugglers, is doing the school program. So they get paid a certain amount of money to go to the school, teach everybody how to juggle, demonstrate, that kind of stuff. So in a lot of ways, this mission, whether we get to the goal or not, still is going to do a lot for juggling. I think we can get there, though. I just don't know how long it'll take.
It's really stretching your brain in different ways, like even doing site swaps and figuring those out.
Yeah. So it's coordination, it's puzzle solving, it's reaction time. It's a combination of everything that you want to develop your brain as well as your physical abilities and your problem solving abilities. Problem solving as well in terms of how you learn to improve, how you break down the moves that you're working on. I mean, for me, that was a big thing. Is I really do believe that juggling taught me how to approach any sort of obstacle in my life in general and not be overwhelmed by the task. Like, you could look at the task of get juggling into the Olympics. Like, what do you even do? Well, you break it down. What's the first step? What do you have to do right now? What can you do in a week? How do you work toward that? And that's the same thing as learning 3 balls, So I think on some level it can teach kids those problem solving abilities. And so that gets worked into the whole promotion of the WJF school program, that it's not just juggling, which is cool enough on its own. And of course, we show them videos of people juggling like they've never seen before. So we open their eyes into what's really possible with juggling. And so that's our best bet for getting into the schools. And all the research and studies have been done on gray matter. I mean, we've heard it over and over and over again. So we know all the benefits. It's just packaging it for them so that, a school board can review it and say, yeah, we want to put money into this. And it's not a ton. It's nothing close to what they would put into basketball or football or, whatever sport they already have.
And it's like, I even think how juggling has helped me. It's something that becomes mine, right? And it's like, I feel like kids sometimes need that, like something to work on. Like if they don't like to do other things, but they like to do this and they push themselves in this, like it makes them feel fulfilled.
It gives them a sense of accomplishment, that instant satisfaction once they get it on their own. No one else has to be there for them to know that they, got 5 catches of 5 balls and they'd never done it before. Right. And then they go running off to tell everybody, or they've got their camera set up for it. But that was exactly me. I was not interested in anything else. Like if I didn't stumble upon juggling, I have no idea what I would have done. I had no interest in sports. I had no interest in anything they were trying to teach me in school. I was just trying to graduate and get out of there, and so that I could juggle more.
I think I was studying like the history of music, and I'm like thinking, wow, if juggling could like evolve like music did in different ways, like it would be amazing. So I kind of like linking things back to juggling. So kind of like things all surround juggling sometimes, right, for me. So
it's the easiest thing for us to work hard at. So like, I can say, I practice 8 hours a day, but it's a hard 8 hours of practice, but it's easy to make ourselves do it, which is different from, doing hard work that you don't want to do. You're not really motivated to stick with for that many hours.
Yeah. It's like for me, like going to the gym, lifting weights, working out normally, like really bores me, but juggling, it's like, it's physical, but it's also fun. It's like a game. And it's like, I want to nail a certain trick. You're not really focusing on a muscle. I get bored very easily from working out. So I just usually tend to go to juggling.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like cardiovascular exercise, juggling is good for that. But like I got into martial arts and that was my cardio. It was just a lot more fun to practice kicks. And because you're not just doing mindless, as long as you're acquiring a skill while you're also getting exercise, then it's gonna keep your attention for a longer period of time, and you're more likely to do it in general. But some exercises you just have to do because you have to do them. So you can set goals for yourself, and you can just try to do better than you did before. Sometimes that's enough for me. Like if I'm doing a set of 4 sets of an exercise and I know how many reps I got the previous time, my goal is to get 1 more, and so I'm working toward that. So it keeps it kind of interesting, and I get a little bit of stage fright from it. So I'm engaged with it, at least. I'm concerned about doing better.
I personally have never been an endurance guy when it comes to juggling. Like juggling 7 balls for as long as I can. Jack said, like in the previous talk with you, like instead of working on 7 clubs, work on a trick. So it forces you to do 7 clubs. Like, and that's like honestly how I roll with most things. Like it's just like I do the harder step. So like the basic step that needs work gets work done. I may not get the harder step, but it's like I'm just pushing to get the harder step so I get through the
you're working on you're doing sets of 7 clubs, and should the pattern be set up right, then you go try your tricks. But in the meantime, you're still getting practice starting 7 clubs, and you're solidifying that. The trap in that I found for myself, and when I train other people, is that they won't be thinking about the pattern. They'll be thinking about the trick before they get the pattern solid for the trick. So as long as you're thinking of it correctly, as long as you're thinking, let me first set up 7 clubs perfectly, and if it's set up perfectly, then I'll go for the trick. Then you're practicing both perfectly at that point.
When I'm going for the trick, like obviously the pattern may not be completely right, but the more I work on it, like without knowing it, because I feel like sometimes if I restrict myself to like, I don't know, like I shouldn't move my feet like first time I'm doing 7 clubs, right? I feel like in a way, like I could be doing 7 clubs, maybe walking around a little bit. The pattern's not completely like but at the same time, the more I work on it, the more comfortable I'll feel and the more accurate my throws will be over time. Like that's what I've seen with my juggling. I feel like I practice to have fun like most of the time, but
it's not that much fun when you're being very strict on your form. As long as I mean, for me, I would obviously, everybody moves around a little bit when they're juggling. I would always at least try to start off from a solid foundation from the first throw or the flash of it. Like if I'm taking steps with the very first 5 throws or 7 throws or whatever it is, then there's obviously something wrong with those first 7 throws. And just like building a house, you know, the foundation has to be solid, or it's, you know, you're not going to be able to build much more above that. I mean, there is something to be said for being able to correct. So, but I mean, if there's a correction, that means that there was a problem. So it's, I mean, you have to police yourself, like what's acceptable to you. And then, you know, when you're up that high, like 7 clubs, I mean, unless 7 clubs is in your short program, there's not going to be really any deductions for moving around while you're doing it, or in the freestyle. So it's only, you know, when we get to the point where people are doing 7 clubs, which now that's a possibility because it's no longer limited to just 5 clubs. So you better believe if you're doing 7 clubs in the short program, you take a few steps, you might not score as well. So So that could be a separate training session. Is okay, now I'm just training for, you know, 21 perfect throws just for that routine, just so that I can end that routine or put that in wherever it's going to be and not get any deductions for that.
I can do 100 catches while walking around. Obviously, I'm not running across the room or anything crazy.
Yeah, I think at your point, it's just what you decide to do, what you allow yourself to do. Like you've got the ability to not move if you don't want to. And or you can just ease up on that a little bit and focus more on the tricks. From the videos that I've seen, though, you're not, you know, whatever movement I've seen, there's not a whole lot. So, you know, I don't feel like an intervention is required and you need to be you know, reevaluate how you're doing. I think what we're talking about is quite minimal. More importantly, though, do you know what that's from?
I think that's the Battle for Presidency belt, is it? Yeah.
We're starting a whole new Easter egg WJF trivia segment in these conversations, and you're the first one to participate and win. So congratulations. You don't get to keep it, though. That stays there.
I'll have to battle for it.
Yeah. Bring that back. That's an efficient use of all of our time. From my time, 7 clubs was rare. There were very few people that could do it. And now there's so many people juggling 7 clubs. When you first started working on it, was it intimidating at all for you? Or did you feel like it was going to be something you'd actually be able to achieve with relative ease?
Yeah. I didn't really keep track of how many catches I guess I got. Like I wanted to get the flash, right? My only problem was catching the last, like the 4th club on the left hand.
Yeah.
Like that was my biggest problem. Like I remember I have a video on my YouTube where I called it whipping 7 clubs. I flashed 7 clubs for the first time. And yeah, that was the last catch was the struggle. Like it felt. And probably the first throw was the struggle. The intimidating thing was like holding 4 in one hand and catching 4 in one hand. I think that was the biggest one. And I think, that's normal for being like 14.
So then you felt as long as you could get them up there, you had a good chance of keeping it going?
Yeah. I could usually go past a flash like a little bit, like if I got it right, I guess. Like I've heard it said before with like numbers, the release is one of the most important parts. I think that goes like as long as you keep the rhythm of the pattern, it can come along, I guess.
How long do you think it took for you to lock it in and feel like you really owned it from the moment you first started working on it?
I'm not too sure because I remember posting another video with 38 catches or something, and that was like several months later.
Okay, so within the same year.
Yeah. Well, it has been a multi-year project, honestly. I just got like 100 catches. Technically, I got 99 catches on camera. I don't think I revisited it for a while because it was 99 catches. I'm like, I'm done. So I started working on tricks, I guess.
So you're not trying to get any more than like 100 catches?
Not at the moment. I have thought like going for 200, and I've gotten like 100 somewhat, I guess, consistently. I can get it every practice, like 100.
What's your number that you can always get?
40 or 50 at least. It's at that point at the moment.
So a bit better than my 7 balls. Just a bit. Say we have 5 people that we want to put on the U.S. Olympic team. Who should those jugglers be? And you can include yourself.
Okay. you were talking about doing a balls, rings, and clubs separate categories. You were talking about that with Ivan.
There will be awards for overall balls, overall rings, overall clubs, but there's also going to be a team overall score and then an individual overall score. So the individual overall is basically our overall championship scoring system. The team overall is the accumulation of all of those individual overalls for the whole team. So as a team and as an individual, it's in your best interest to be proficient in balls, clubs, and rings. But and it really just depends when you're going up against different countries, if everyone in those other countries has jugglers that are also just as proficient in balls, clubs, and rings. Because it might be the kind of thing where you can get someone who specializes mostly in balls, maybe can still do clubs and rings well enough to get a decent score, but their balls is above and beyond anyone else in that country. So you'd want them to get the ball score way up. And then they're going up against any specialists in balls from other countries.
I like that, because I like the concept of like individual, like balls, clubs, and rings. You get an award for like each one of those, but also the overall. Like I always think a juggler who like excels at all three is a really good juggler and like deserves recognition.
I mean, imagine if you're really good, you get all of it. You get overall, and then overall balls, overall rings, overall clubs. So yeah, you're coming home with a lot of medals from that.
I'd say like definitely Jack Denger for USA. I think I'd put myself up there. And Delaney for sure, if she's interested in competing Olympically. Jonah, like definitely, because he's been injured lately. Like, so I'm not sure how that's going. Like, definitely at the level he was at before he got injured. Like, yeah, he'd be Team USA all the way, because he's so like consistent with all his tricks. Like, you see his practice, he nails a 5-up 720 with clubs like that, and then like does like singles 5-up 720, and it's like, what? Yeah, because I think like us four overall are like the people who excel at all three pretty efficiently. Obviously, Delaney, for example, has focused on more rings and clubs lately. But yeah, like the ball level, she probably has it.
Those first four were my choices as well. And since juggling is a multi-gender skill that you don't really have an advantage being male over females for it, it doesn't really make sense to do a whole separate female category. And I think it's a disservice for juggling in general to do that. So I think, and by promoting it in that way, I think we'll hopefully get more female jugglers to realize that this is something. Just because there's more male jugglers doing it, that doesn't mean that it's you have to be male to be as good as the best. Right. Delaney is a perfect example of that.
Juggling is interesting because it's like, it doesn't really like depend on strength really, and it's like it's more
not so much that you need to be a high testosterone power lifter to make a difference. It's really, it's kind of a cool sport. It's like both can compete at the same level, and it's cool. The trick list, I was trying them last night actually, they're a good challenge. Like, and they kind of like brought me back to like basic 360s and stretching that, and it's really, really good. There's not a lot of side swaps besides 744 and 6x4. Like, for example, the DB97531 is not really in there. 7 balls, there's 2 connected DB97531s is in. That's number 9
in the Olympics.
In the Olympic one, Look at item 9. 2 connected DB97531. Because in the advanced, I think we have DB97531. That one's in there. But you're right. There's not a whole lot of, other than the 6x4, 8x6. 97531, B97531, DB97531. Because, and 966744. Because other than those, I think those are kind of like, side swaps are personal choices, and you can specialize in them. But I think this whole thing is based off of developing a strong foundation of skill in a variety of different areas. Like, there's also no side swap backcross combinations. There's no like 6S4 in back crosses. But I think after you've mastered the back crosses and you've mastered the 6x4, I think then you can move on and create that on your own. But I don't think that needs to be a requirement. I think you can argue some of the stuff doesn't need to be a requirement. But I was trying to figure out the best way to develop the strongest foundation of skill so that anything is possible for you. So all of this is an extension of, 3-ball versions of all of these moves that have just now at the Olympic level has expanded up to 7 balls, 8 balls, and 9 balls. Having said that, though, if there were any other site swaps that I hadn't thought of that I think further support that cause and develop skill to make you more well-rounded, I certainly want to hear about it. But I mean, it's also a pretty long list to begin with.
Yeah, for sure. Like it is a list of requirements. It doesn't mean it's everything. So yeah, it's I think it makes sense. Yeah, and honestly, it's really good training material. Like just trying to push to get those. Yeah, it's also like solidifying the basics, because you can get creative and get all kinds of crazy site swaps. But like this is I think it's a good start.
Well, and also I realized as I was going through this is I'm basically not rewriting, but writing in a different way, like the training materials that I put together. Like if you go through theory and practice of juggling, there's a lot of these exercises. To learn 6x4, you're going to go through the 3-ball version, the 2-ball version of it, the 3-ball version of it, and the 4-ball version of it. So a lot of these moves are set up that way. Like if you can do this version of it, then the next step is not that much farther away, but you should first learn this step before you get to that step. So it kind of, if you go through this in order, you can kind of put together your whole training regimen for the next, several years, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right. They're not easy either.
No, yeah, they're not easy. Yeah. But it's cool to see it on there. And it's cool to be able to rate your progress based off of how close you are to getting each one of these line items, and then documenting that.
They feel like VOVA type training, honestly. Like it feels, because of the consistency and the 360s and especially like the 10 connected 5-ups. Like that's like a VOVA style like move.
Well, there's no coincidence.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I know where you got it from.
Yeah. Like, I just love how in WJF4, Thomas and VOVA, how consistent they were. The freestyle was the coolest part, because you could see them do a crazy move, then the other one's like, all right, they do the next step of the move, and like most of them were first try, and it was like I don't see a lot of jugglers doing that anymore, and it's like I think that the requirement system might push that for sure. So.
Yeah, because that's always my concern about freestyle competitions, is that you get people trying hard stuff, but also pulling it off and getting that back and forth with them all out there at the same time. So it's kind of like, like a game of horse, sort of.
Yeah.
And they're right there in each other's faces, and you can point their fingers at each other's face and say, yeah, your turn, you try that.
Yeah, I love that freestyle format, because it's like, it's just so competitive. It's like, let's see what you got.
Well, that's what, was it Ivan? I think I was talking about making that a little bit safer, like doing 3 tries per person before you rotate around, just so that you can cool down while you're waiting for, the other 2 or however many others there are there to go. So at least you get your 3 in a row, and then you move on, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, it because it's kind of like the first time you do it, it's like you're like warming up in a way. I see jugglers get really close, right, the first time, and then it's like one more try, they got it. 2 attempts would be actually a good thing, because it's like oof, all right, I see what I can do better now to get the trick, so they try the second time and get it. Like I think it'll be a little more successful. So
maybe just 2, no more than 3, but maybe just 2 tries then.
Yeah,
just to keep it moving a little bit faster.
Like I've been in a competition where I just drop in the 7-ball pattern, and I'm like, does that count as an attempt or does it not? And it's like, I guess that second try could be useful in that sense.
Right. Yeah. Because I think it has counted in the past. Any drop, whether you tried the trick or not, that's your attempt. As soon as a ball hits the ground, it doesn't matter why it hit the ground, but that's
And will the Olympic requirements, will we have to meet all those requirements to be Olympic, or?
No, that's the skill level certification is separate from actually being, you know, because to get into to make the Olympic team will be a competition. So there will be like a national level competition to make the US team. Oh, and then there'll have to be an international competition, much like how the WJF is already set up, to then determine which countries go on to the Olympics. So you first make the team, and then you compete against all the other countries that have their teams, and hopefully your team, you know, is within the top however many places they allow us to submit to the Olympics. So yeah, that's a multi-stage competition.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a very good, and I put this together based off of the known skill level in juggling right now. What's been done, like there's the advanced competitions, what's been done in those competitions, but then what you guys are doing now, and every year it changes because you guys get better. And then the next generation is kind of based off of what you guys are working on. So, you know, the four that you mentioned, you, Jack, Delaney, and Jonah, are going to be the ones, I think, that change what next generation means, because you're going to turn next generation into Olympic, and then we'll have to constantly modify those two. And I think just having it there's people we don't even know of right now that may be watching this video at this moment that are going to be better than all four of you, you know?
Oh yeah. Plus kids.
Yeah.
Kids learn fast. The speed of how people learn juggling is getting faster. There's obviously more YouTube and like inspiration to go off of.
So the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create, I've been meaning to do this for a while, but, you know, creating an exercise and nutrition program specifically for jugglers, to strengthen the muscles that we need while we juggle, and just overall have a strong base of strength for launching, you know, patterns like, you know, the higher number stuff, 7 balls, seven clubs, 9 rings.
There's a lot of really good jugglers that have gotten injured. We could practice more effectively, or like do certain exercises that prevent that, like they do in different sports.
Yeah.
Because I noticed like a lot of jugglers that juggle way more than me. Some jugglers juggle like 3 hours a day, right? Like at least. There's certain things, plus like my back muscles like hunch over because of the amount of strength I put on those over the other muscles. Some sort of like exercises like for jugglers specifically, like I think that's a good idea, because to prevent injury and to
well, and also just the form, like you said, if you're doing it for that many hours a day, the way you're standing and how you're using, like if you exercise badly for 3 hours a day, you're going to hurt yourself. You know, just because you're exercising doesn't mean you're exercising correctly. Same thing for juggling as well. So you may be, I mean, you know, I always go back to Thomas on this one. You know, that's probably one of the reasons why he had shoulder injuries and his back was hurting. It's if you don't use the proper form when you're doing it for that many hours a day, you know, over time, the strain of that is going to, you know, result in an injury. So a combination of that and strengthening those muscles too, which also, you know, whether I'm training people in juggling or fitness, the form is always the same. There's just good natural human posture that you need to be aware of and always be thinking of. Like whenever I start juggling or whenever I start any exercise, I always think about how I'm standing, you know, how my shoulders are set up. Am I symmetrical? Is my weight evenly distributed on both feet? If I'm bending over to do something, am I curving my back or am I flattening my back? Same thing for juggling. And then when you throw in 360s too, you can come into knee problems. You can come into torso problems, back problems. You can twist things. And most jugglers probably don't warm up. They just want to start juggling, right? They get to the gym and they start juggling. That's their warm up. They'll warm up with 5 balls, do some 360s. They think of warm up as getting your heart rate up, but not actually warming up your muscles and stretching a little bit.
Yeah.
Stretching. That's the most boring thing you can do, but it's very important.
I know a lot of jugglers who just hurt themselves from excessive practice, and like there's a good amount to be like learned about like how jugglers should be physically in a way to not get injured, because wrists are a whole different thing too. So
right. And I mean wrists, I think wrists need to be strengthened with more than just the juggling. I think you need to add some resistance training for that, just basic stuff. And even just knowing what muscles to use when you do a 360. You know, most jugglers don't get dance training to learn how to do their 360s. They're just spinning their bodies around it, you know, thousands of times until they figure out how it works, and they just discover balance rather than learning how to balance. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just brute force and putting that pressure on your knee and your foot, and then your obliques. If you're using your obliques, you know, if you got to learn how to engage your core and use that as the strength mechanism for those starting and ending those spins. And like the jugglers who don't turn all the way around, and they're just kind of sloppily getting 3/4 of the way around and then moving the pattern over there instead of back where it started. You know, that's all stuff I think you could injure yourself from. So yeah, all of this stuff I'm going to try to put into you know, a whole cohesive training program, which is probably not going to be the most interesting thing for jugglers, because it's not juggling specific. It's all just conditioning your body to be a better juggler. But I would think you would want to do that, because that's going to you know, increase your potential.
There's this guy from, I think, Colombia or something, that he reached out to me like wanting to do this project in the future or something. He sent me a video of Anthony Gatto saying about like you have to work out biceps. Like, you worked out biceps to do 7 clubs or whatever. And he worked out biceps to do like the juggling he did, like, which for me, I'm like, juggling already does enough for my biceps. Like, I should work out other muscles to not go even more off balance when it comes to like my physical form. If juggling becomes like Olympic, like what kind of training would be, like muscle training will be done to make it more efficient? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you just briefly from what I know about that. His dad, Nick, was suggesting that you do high repetition bicep curls, which I agree with, because juggling is a high repetition activity. And so you'd want to have the endurance strength there. You don't want size. You don't want large muscles, because then your arms become heavier. Then it becomes a lot more difficult to juggle for longer periods of times. But you want, if you're juggling for endurance, which, well, you pretty much are, even if it's just a routine, it's going to last a while. So you want to have the strength that you can get from juggling. Yes, you can. But I think there may be something to high repetition exercises for biceps as well. I mean, it seems like that can't do anything harmful, and that could only help because you are increasing your strength. It's very boring. I mean, if you think, you know, 10 sets of curls for 4 sets is boring, you know, 50 reps is it's gonna last a long time, and you're gonna be using very lightweight. You're gonna be using, you know, I mean, it depends on your strength level, but like for me to do 50 reps of bicep curls would be like somewhere between, I don't know, 20 or 30 pounds maybe. I'm just guessing, but something like that. So, but it's not just getting the reps done. It's doing the reps correctly with the right form and the right speed. And I guess for juggling, you'd want to incorporate some speed, some explosive movement with that as well. I'm focused
you're launching,
on,
right?
Yeah, you're launching, but you're also moving fast. There's like, I do a lot of slow movements in exercise just to put more time under tension for the muscles. But yeah, my focus is more on just the base of operations, the fundamental core strength to prevent yourself from wiggling around while you're juggling. I mean, it's really just you control the juggling, or the juggling is going to control you. The stronger you are, the more control you'll have over at least the strength of the patterns that you're doing, you know, and be able to control them. Yeah, the more I talk about that, the more I realize that's a bigger project than I thought. There's a lot of stuff to go over with that.
Yeah, someone else needs to do that.
Yeah, let's just get someone else to do it.
Yeah, I was talking with Jack about these moves through Instagram, and we were looking also at the next gen stuff, and it's some wild stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, but I also have like the mentality, like, because they probably thought the things we're doing now, like WJF 1, they thought this stuff was impossible or hard.
No one was thinking of this stuff. That wasn't, you know, wasn't even on our radar. The next generation stuff, I'm writing it out. I'm like, man, there's no way anyone's doing this right now. I'm like, you know, you'll be surprised. You write it down, people will do it.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's not like I'm writing 21 club back crosses. You know that, and that's something that we can
juggling lab stuff.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's something best for a simulator. But you know,
Yeah.
We know 9
well, the 9 clubs. Oh, yeah, for sure. The 9 club 27 catches, though, that seems crazy, but we'll probably get there.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. All that stuff, I think within 10 years or sooner, I think we'll be seeing most of it, if not all of it, and maybe, you know, harder stuff.
Yeah. I think if we force people to show off and get these moves, like, I don't know, you won't do it. They'll probably work to it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's motivated me for sure. Like, yeah, like do the hardest tricks and the routines. Like, yeah, I'm thinking of some stuff for this year, and we'll see. WJF has always been probably one of the biggest reasons I'm the level I am. So yeah,
awesome.
It's always been super fun. Yeah.
Cool. I'll let you go. This was an hour of your time. I very much appreciate. I'll put this all together and probably upload it maybe on Monday or Tuesday. I've got some announcement videos to go up. So maybe I'll start with this one first, and then we'll go to my announcement videos after that. Actually, this might be the trailer or the promotion that I will be having some announcement videos coming up after this video. So I guess this one will be the first one to go up.
Yeah. There we go.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. I really enjoyed talking. So
yeah, likewise. And I'm looking forward to seeing your videos. Now that I fixed some of the concerns on those line items there, made it a little bit easier. Yeah.
I last night I got the 10 connected 5-up 180s with balls.
Okay.
I got that one, so I can send that one to you if you'd like. So,
yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, imagine eventually we're going to have a whole database of all of these, or as many of them as people can do. You know, I'll probably do some of the simpler ones because I don't think I should waste other jugglers' time doing stuff I can do. So I'll at least do the ones that I can do. But yeah, eventually, like when you're going through this data or this list, you can like click on each one and see an example of somebody doing it, which I think has been instrumental for increasing skill levels, like just watching the competitions and seeing what's possible. And then the next generation takes that as a granted, oh, well, that's possible, and then does better than that. So I think showing examples is going to be a big part of getting people to be able to do it. So yeah, eventually, and then maybe through the app, the same kind of thing. Like you can just be on your phone looking through these lists and just tap on it and see the video of it being done. And then it could actually link into people who have already been certified, and you can see their whole certification video. So you can see, here's someone who did, you know, WJF 2B, and then going through the whole thing with the seal of approval on their video, showing that they qualified for that certification. So
I probably can get a good amount of them, but yeah, there's some I'll have to work for.
Yeah. Well, whichever ones look the most interesting for you right now. But then you're going to have a list of things you haven't gotten to that might start eating away at you, and you might start wanting to just complete that list anyway.
Oh yeah.